Good
I like the
morning.
old when all I had to learn was Zoom and not 6 other kinds of video conferencing.
Dude, my enemy is Teams, but I think I'm
Yes,
alone
I
in that
hate Teams.
boat.
No, no, Teams is absolutely the worst.
Yeah, if you're not a regular Microsoft user, it's not friendly. But anyways, that's an opinion. Um, all right. Good morning, good morning. I am, like usual, just gonna show I titled it, At Least I'm Honest, that it's a chicken scratch agenda. And let's see. I was going to start with like a general reminder, then we're going to move into updates that can everybody see this? I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It's not that big. Updates, although not much because we're meeting with the bond bank later today, but maybe there's other inner workings within the city that we can touch base and get an update on. We've had some time to look over the management policies around debt and also balancing the budget. So I kind of wanted just to get our heads together and look at those as well. And another thing that I wasn't sure if it's too soon, I'm just really excited about our budget day in January and trying to think how this task force can help prepare if that's necessary. So that's what this bullet point was going to be, but I didn't know if that was just like, I'm just excited and need to pause or I was, so that's
No, your timing's
roughly
perfect on that, Carter. Thank you. I think that's a
okay.
great thing to talk about. I actually wrote an email to Carrie this morning saying that I wanted to talk about this at council meeting on Monday night some, so I'm glad you're putting it on the agenda.
Nice. All right. So I just wanted to start at the top because I've heard from the community that there are things on social media. And so it kind of provoked this internal looking into, and we are the financial task force, which means we are serving the municipality and acting on a part. Like we are reviewing policies. We're actually trying to, make recommendations around policies. We're really diving into and holding the city accountable in some ways. So this is just a reminder that we also have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, not just in our daily actions, but also online. And that means all types of social media posts, even your engagement, it's all public these days. So even if you're commenting on Billy Bob, who doesn't live here, it can still show up on your neighbor's feed. And I just want to make sure that we are being kind because all people belong in this kind of conversation. Everybody has the opportunity to come and participate in Newport's progress. And I don't want something like this to hit a snag. We're public facing, people are watching our videos, it really matters to me. And I want to make sure we're being kind and inclusive to all. So this is just from Act 171 as a nice reminder. So I don't know, just wanted to again give a reminder. Don't know if there's any other comments or if this is invoking thoughts, but if you're like, this is out of the blue, maybe it's not about you, but also just a reminder, it's really hard to distinguish online what's real, what's fake, what's AI, what's partially true. Where do we get there? So just please be cognizant of, I know we just kind of bring our tea and we talk about really important topics here every Wednesday, but off the clock, it does matter. It can come back and affect our work here. So, yeah. All right.
That was totally vague, non-specific, and for some of us sitting in the hedgerow here, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
okay. Well,
intentional. It doesn't matter because the reminder stands alone.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it to you? Municipal
No,
officer
or you read.
individual.
Obviously,
Okay.
I can read that. I know the big words too. It's the gist of what you were saying. You're acting as if there is a specific reason for this, but you're not being specific. So for those of us in the hedgerow, it's vague booking, as it would be called on Facebook.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I would just like to leave it as a reminder and make sure that
Okay.
folks maybe hear it. And then if it becomes an issue, it continues to become an issue, then I can name it and be more specific. But I just would rather be this the intro. And if there's any follow-up needed, I'm happy to do that. And I'm more than willing. But I think at this point, this is just a first intro and we'll see what people do with it here. So
I am.
Carter, if it's okay, I want to make one statement because there was a post on Newport Hopes a week or two ago about, from the admin standpoint, about who we accept into that group. And there was a lot of back and forth. There had been a post earlier about something that I just let go. There was a lot of back and forth with it. But we have I recognize that we want input, but that particular group can get really out of hand. So, I don't think this is what you're talking about, but I want to be really upfront with that particular group because there could be people that might say something about it because it says Newport, Vermont Hopes. Unfortunately, because of friends of friends of friends of friends in a public group, we get people from all over the country and around the world who want to give us their opinions, and they've never been here. And they see it from an outside perspective. Well, if you would just do this, or if you would just do that. And I'm very cognizant of that because years ago, I changed jobs with the same company and moved to another location. And I found myself saying at the other store, and about a week in, my boss came to me and said, but you're not that store anymore. And that hit me in the face. And so I take it very seriously when someone from Alaska who's never been to Newport tries to tell us what to do with a hole in the ground or something. And so I'm very careful about what I say and how I do it. But that's because Newport is passion for me. And I definitely want to hear from people who've been here. I want the discussion to be, we've had to take off people that were bullying and those kind of things. But the three of us who admin that site, and it is very public, we are very particular about those kind of things. And I took some heat from that and from that statement, and just, well, we want other people's opinions. Well, that is the purpose of the group, but we want to keep it local. So I want you guys to be aware that is, because of my past history with that kind of thing, I really want to make sure, like with the NDV survey, we want to hear from everybody in the county, but I don't know that you want to hear from somebody in California who's never been here or lived here to tell us what to do. So that's just my opinion. And again, on that site, I am very, when I'm talking about Newport stuff, I'm very specific about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So
right. I think Facebook can be a minefield in a number of ways. Adminning those groups, I know is no easy lift. Just again, reminding that, your name is attached with comments and also on your personal feed too. Like this goes both directions. So I know it can be difficult, but we're doing serious business. So please be considerate of, your digital footprint, and do the best you can. And I appreciate you raising an instance that, this is hitting for you, Lori. And yeah, my methods is I usually just stay off of it. That's it's I avoid. So, but I understand that you being an admin on Facebook is the opposite of that. So, yes. Okay. All right.
I really want to point out that's ethics code is a little unclear generally. It seems to me that if you are a member of one of these committees, and you said something complimentary of what, let's say, the mayor or the council was doing, then you could be regarded as acting, not acting impartially and unduly favoring the mayor by saying that he did a good job, or the council by saying they did a good job on something. I mean, it's very unclear what is unduly favoring or unduly prejudicing by saying, for instance, you didn't think the mayor did a good job at something, or the council did a good job at something. And certainly, I think that if you disclaim to begin with, maybe that if you disclaim to begin with that you're not saying this opinion as part of the city, but you're saying it as an individual, what your opinion is, maybe that is okay. But there needs to be more clarification as to what is unduly, and there needs to be more clarification of what kinds of activities a person, an individual who's volunteered to be on one of these committees can do. Because some people would say, well, look, if I can't say what I think about the council's action, that I didn't think that was a good thing, then I don't want to be on a committee, because I don't want to be bound by whatever this ethical rule, quote, ethical rule is. Just some suggestions. Obviously, I'm not on any committees, so I can say what I please. And I think that's important. The city needs to hear what individuals think. But some of those people you might want to have on committees, and they want to be clear as to what the boundaries are of what they can say and can't say.
The slippery slope of social media.
Right. So I am going to drop a link to, because VLCT always does a really good job of explaining everything from A to Z. So, and I don't know if folks will be able to access it because I'm already logged in. But if you want to do a deep dive on what this really means, and maybe it helps you reframe your participation in this. I mean, we're in local governance. I think I really focus on the word impartially. Like if you can compliment the mayor one day and then the next day say, you know what, actually the actions that you're being impartial. You are bringing, I don't mean to go into this rabbit hole. I think that this is a resource. Explore it, can continue to have conversations, continue to reflect on your own actions. Like I would like to, we're going to steer the ship back to the policies and updates and what we're here to do. But if this has become an issue for you, please reach out. My email, you guys have it, and we can find a time to meet and talk more about this. I appreciate the sincerity and the thoughtfulness that has gone into this conversation. But just looking at time, I was definitely thinking we would be on another topic. So to be mindful of everybody's mornings, I'm going to move on to updates. So again, and now my dog's barking. We have a Vermont Bond Bank meeting later today, and that will help iron out our paperwork and what we need as a city to do. I think we're way more with the clean audit and a couple other things that Chip and Carrie and I think Rick have been helping with their 5-year projection, 10-year projections. We're in a really good place, but just again, the fine tuning, all of the paperwork and whatnot. So we'll be knowing more about that. Actually, probably we'll have a city council meeting before we convene again as a task force to know the updates on that. But I will bring back big takeaways next week. Rick, Carrie, or Chip, are there other things going on behind the scenes you wanted to touch base on?
I'll just let you all know that it took 5 days, but we got the final loan stuff across the finish line on Friday late afternoon. So those transactions have actually taken place. It was just juggling back and forth about the final letter, the language of the final letter from the opinion letter, it's called, from the attorneys. But it was done on Sunday. Chip, I didn't have a chance to really check in yesterday, but I understand that the balances should now reflect that we've paid $1.3 million on the line of credit, in anticipation of tax income. And this is a question I have for you, Chip. I assume that money would have come into our general fund, account, our regular account, and that what you're doing is showing it as an obligation of the sewer fund that will then immediately show a repayment of the $874,000 due to others line on the balance sheet, and therefore an increase in asset of the general fund on the balance sheet. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Great. So
Yes.
congratulations, everybody. That's huge. That means we've gotten through pretty much everything except the Vermont Bond Bank, and that'll be the last one of these that we have to work on. And Carter's right. I think we've actually done 90% of the work that we need to do for the Vermont Bond Bank. So I'm not actually worried about trying to get that one pulled together for the application by the 1st of December.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the application, how it was going.
Yeah, I don't really know because I haven't actually seen what the application looks like, but we'll know this morning. They're gonna walk us through it this morning at 9:30.
Okay.
Based on what I understand from their energy project applications, and then they have this one through the water systems, we have the main components ready, but yeah, those fine-tune things, I'm sure the city can handle, and I'm feeling optimistic for sure. All right, then the next thing, if there's nothing from Chip or Carrie, we can pop to the oh wait. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I can give an update. I don't have nothing is finished, but there's progress on everything, I guess, is the update. I bugged the guy about the credit card again on Monday, and I was hoping he'd get back to me yesterday, but he was probably also out of office. So hopefully I'll hear back this week. And as far as the budget, I have like a first draft of the rec budget. I think Mike is still going in and tweaking things as he thinks of things. And then I met with the fire department on Monday afternoon, and I would say we got there is about like 70% drafted. There was some things they were going to look into in terms of like what gear expenses are looking like for the next time they need to buy. And so we kind of both walked away with some assignments of some things to look into. But that's good because those two, I believe, are the two that we have scheduled for the 17th meeting.
sweet. Thank you. That's great.
Carter, I have, oh, Rick's.
Rick, you were muted though.
Sorry, I keep trying not to have noise in the background here. Go ahead, Lori. I'll chime in after you.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna excuse Chip from the rest of this meeting, but and I don't know if this is the right place to put this, and I was going to send an email. So I happened to be at a place on Sunday afternoon and ended up in a conversation with John Ward, who said to me that there was a situation about 20 to 25 years ago, he believes, where the city received federal monies for, I think he called it the Scotts Road or Scotts Cove project or something, that was that flowed through the city as a loan to what was then Rural Edge, Gilman Housing, which is now Rural Edge. And he believes that that loan is supposed to be called in at some point, but somewhere in the mix, it may have gotten lost or shifted, or in their transition from Gilman Housing to Rural Edge. So I that's just another thing that has come up. I don't know whether Jim can shed some more light on that, but he believes that Rural Edge said that they were supposed to get the money, but the city actually gave it to them as a loan. And it's supposed to be paid back to the city because it was federal money for something. So I don't know where to start, or if we need to figure that out, if Chip has seen anything, if.
Yeah,
because it's in,
there's actually two totally deferred notes. One of them's 75,000, one of them is 400,000 that are in the notes area in the 24 audit. I don't
Okay.
recall seeing them in the notes area of the 25 audit. I wanted the auditors to book the receivable and the deferred receivable in the CDBG fund, so it would be clear that those exist and are going to be called, I believe, in 2031 or 2034.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so maybe that's part of it then,
I think that's all of it.
all of it, okay. All right,
Great.
good.
Boy, am I glad you had an explanation for that, Chip, because I certainly don't.
Me too. Me too. Okay, great, thank you so much.
Yeah, Rick, you had a thought.
Yeah, one other thing I just wanted to update you all. Carrie and I think we talked about this at one of our meetings the last couple of weeks. We had advice from Sarah Macy, the CFO over in St. Albans, that she thought we would do really well to look into what it would take to automate the archaic way we are handling payment of invoices and AP warrants, which looks to me to be something lifted directly out of 1940 at the moment. And the more I've done it here inside the office and inside the process, the more ridiculous it has seemed to me, the way we manage it all on paper, and it just gets moved from one place to another, and hours and hours and hours get invested in it. So on her advice, we looked up a company that she has worked with. That's the one that St. Albans uses. We called in all of the department heads and Jim, Stacy, and Robin for a meeting with the company, and they had 4 people on the call. This was 2 weeks ago now, I guess. And they did an hour-long presentation during which everybody had a chance to ask questions about how it would work, what the implications might be, at the end of which everyone said, this is clearly the way to go. Stacy was probably the most enthusiastic person in the group, in my judgment, because it would make a huge difference in the amount of busy work that she's currently required to do. So based on that, we asked them for a quote. The quote came back. There are 2 parts to a quote. Well, there are 2 kind of payments that are made up of various parts. I won't rehearse it all, but one is the annual payment for the use of the software, which if you're under a certain level of number of invoices, that's how they set their software costs based on number of invoices you process in a given year. We would be at their lowest level. Cost would start somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 a year. It would likely go up, on a regular basis. They suggest probably $500 next year and $500 the year after that, but it's in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. It would be a 3-year contract. The setup fee they estimate could involve as much as 80 hours of investment of time. And so that fee came in, do you remember the exact number, Carrie? It was pushing 20 grand or a little over even, wasn't it?
I think it was like 16 something.
For the setup itself, right?
The
Sorry.
setup, yeah.
And so that kind of made me wince, given the current cash flow situation or the current kind of financial reality for us. So we pushed back a little bit on that and met with them again. Carrie and I met with somebody on Friday, their primary salesperson that we're working with. He listened to what we said and then came back with a new quote that lowered it, by about 3,000, Carrie, down to about 13 to 14,000.
Yeah, he lowered everything. He lowered the setup, he lowered our yearly. I think he saw that we were hesitant and took that message seriously. Yeah, I think all in it ended up 3,000 lower.
Yeah, it was a total of about a $3,000 discount off the original fee. And then the other thing I had asked him was whether he could, since this is a 3-year contract, would they be willing to split the setup fee between this fiscal year and next fiscal year? so that we wouldn't take all the hit when we're trying to manage cash flow so carefully this year, and we can plan for it for next year. He was amenable to that as well. So basically, we've gotten startup costs down to the annual fee, of course, of about $5,000 plus the roughly $6 or $7,000 that would be half of what the total setup would cost for this year. I'm pretty confident. I'm very confident we can find the money in the budget this year based on other places where we're not spending as much money as we might have according to the budget. So I think we can play with that. I went to I've spoken with each of the council members to say, you know, do you have any concern that this ought to come before council for a decision? This is something that clearly, if in a normal operation, a city manager would be making this decision and simply reporting that it's been made to the council because it's about the daily operations and administration of the city. Each of the council members said, no, I appreciate the explanation. If you can go ahead with arranging the contract and get the process started, go for it. So I just wanted to let you all know that we intend to work with them to try and sign a contract this afternoon, and we'll report out, and the contract itself we'll just share with council in public on probably Monday night if it all comes together quickly.
Rick, can you quantify in any way how much we will save in money by going in this direction? Are we saving some overtime or anything that we could quantify?
Yeah, I suspect we're not saving overtime, Ann, but I think we are, and there's no good way to quantify it in my judgment until we do it. But right now, I mean, Tom is the most serious example of this. Among the department heads, the amount of time that Tom is putting into writing by hand a 9-digit code on every single piece of paper to authorize it and making sure it's in the right spot and all of that kind of stuff, that would all be automated basically. And the machine will learn how to code something based on the company that's invoicing. And just so you know, it's got like 7 checks in it. So basically, the software will check it in 7 different categories, and if they think anything is potentially amiss, it codes it yellow instead of green, so that somebody is then called back into the software system to look at it carefully and make sure we haven't been double invoiced for something, or I can't name all the 7 categories, but it's quite sophisticated. So short answer, Ann, is no, I can't quantify exactly, but I suspect this will save hours and hours and hours every month for everyone involved, and it will certainly save that kind of time for both the city manager and the assistant clerk, the treasurer. So
I can also give some quantification just from my own experience, because another valuable part of the software, as far as I can tell, is that all of the invoices will be available digitally. So with things like grant billing right now, how that's working is that I'm going down into the clerk's office and I'm pulling out invoices and making copies. And like we just did 1 round of billing for the Causeway, and it was easily 8 hours of my time. But it will be instead like I can search by vendor, I can search between dates, and I can just kind of like check them and export them rather than, yeah. So it should significantly reduce that kind of time, if that's like one actual example, if that's helpful.
Does this system work with NEMRIC, or is this
sort of?
They've already seen that it works with NEMRIC.
So it almost they work with a number of companies in Vermont, and they are very accustomed to working with NEMRIC. There's no direct interface, so it still will involve Carrie or Stacy basically having to do a download into an Excel sheet that will be set up, so it's pretty easy, and then an upload from that Excel sheet into NEMRIC. It's not an immediate direct interface. I think that's how I understand. Is that correct, Chip, from your perspective?
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah.
So that way we're getting it on the invoice system, but then it will upload into NEMRIC and be able to go into the chart of accounts for all the budgeting and other reports.
They generate files out per invoice. We import each individual file and load it into accounts payable as if it was a manually entered invoice.
Okay.
And then the process is identical to what you do now to produce a warrant and cut checks. It's just that you're digitizing all the invoices really at the department level, as opposed to them handing paper in and Stacy typing in all those invoices.
And here's the other really cool thing. There's no limit on the number of users. You know, it's not like QuickBooks where you have to pay per user to get it on your computer. So that means if we wanted, like, we could even make accounts, read-only accounts for council members, so that instead of being handed a pile of paper this thick at 2 minutes to 6, and then 3 minutes after 6 voting on it as if they've reviewed it in a you know, a consent agenda, it could actually be available for council members to review at any time. They can go in and look at the documents.
That's exactly where I went when Rick had this check-in with me and reviewed the software. That was my first question, like, will it solve this clear?
Ridiculous problem.
Yes. So, and he was like, yes. And I was like, bought in, because that is the type of, you know, if people really, you know, want more transparency around our expenses and giving the council a chance to act as that QA, QC, or just in general, this is a huge component of that. And so I'm quite thrilled at that. And really the staff relief of burden, it just is a win-win for me.
Carter, I'll just say one more thing I want to say about that. I asked the question, you know, what if a new city manager arrives and a year after they've been there, they say, I hate this system. This decision never should have been made. Like, how do we get the data out again and into something else, right? And basically what they said was, it's your data. We'll help you do that if you need it. But by the way, no one ever leaves. Like, this system is bulletproof. They've been using it for 20 years and they're accustomed to using it with Nemrick. They said, you know, we think we're the hottest thing on the market, and you're not going to find anybody saying we don't want to use this anymore. So we'll see if they're right, but the data is ours, so we won't fight about it when we need to get it out of the system.
Well, and I just want to say, and probably Hal and Chip would agree, spending 13 or 15 or even $18,000 to set this up is, in my opinion, probably cheap. So, I've worked with systems for the last 8 years that spend a lot of time paying a lot of money to move data set up the proper setups to get your data into their systems. So yeah, it's probably well worth it.
Yeah, when you spread that at startup fee, which is the more steep one, but when you spread it across 3 years and it's like, okay, let's really try to give this a go and see how it goes. And I think it's a worthy investment. And thanks for Rick bringing it up. I know I would agree that this would probably fall in just an update category to the council, but not a decision. But I appreciate you bringing the other things that the city is doing to around financial management and things like that. So thank you. Okay. Any other comments, or I'm going to shift into those sharing Google Drive or not Google Doc viewing. Any other things? I wasn't sure how this was your, like, I'm warming up for something. No.
I'm just the whole thing, the system makes perfect sense. The one thing I always just like to get a commitment from is the, people that are there's like small hassle factor. Yeah, I get it. But if it's going to save like Stacy hours or something like that, what can she commit to doing something else? Or, or is it going to save on overtime, to Pam and everybody else's question? Because I know like job descriptions and helping build things were one of the things on the list. So maybe it's like, hey, now I'm going to have and this is not going to happen overnight because system setup and familiarity takes a while. But hey, now I'm going to have time that I can actually execute on XYZ project. So that's been pushed off. So I always like to hear those commitments.
Yeah, Hal, I'll just say about that we're going to open a conversation on Monday night about the process for a city manager search. And from my perspective, that's really the job of a new city manager, is to try and sort out how are we using people's time? Is it being done efficiently? Should it be shared in one category as opposed to another? That kind of stuff. So I'm hoping not to make drastic changes in advance of a city manager arriving, because I think that's really a city manager set of decisions.
Fair enough.
All right. Okay. Anybody have a preference? Should we look at the balanced budget policy or the debt management policy first? Any?
Unable to
I know.
open the debt management one. I did get the balanced budget one from you. For some
Okay.
reason it's going to my Google platform and at my work, so it's really weird. But
I noticed that. I was like, wait, I've already given access to Hal Rodenberg. And then it was like the after. I was like, oh, that's the thing. But yes, okay. I think you should have both now. But I think, okay, let's start with the balanced budget because I think in general it's a little bit more straightforward. I honestly think there's moments to celebrate within it that we have already kind of doing some of these actions. It lays out the process. I'm pretty sure, oh wait, sorry, backing up before I get into the meat and potatoes of this one, is I did switch, but somebody can check me. I did switch all of the places where it said town to city, and then any place where it said select board to city council. And also sometimes for whatever reason that when it's like a note, it doesn't matter. Sorry. Anyways, it was sometimes tricky, but we worked around it. So going back, if you guys had a moment to read like the background of what's going on, I think the main point that I wanted to talk about and really have Chip's ear and also folks that work in the city to talk about what this means, like transfers between budget line items require a city council vote. And do I understand this correctly? Are we doing this already, or is this going to monumentally shift things? Is this something we should have monumentally shifted? Where is my understanding accurate or inaccurate? Yes. So
Want me to address that one?
yes, please.
Is that typically budgets within school districts, they post what's called a final budget. And then in order to move budget money, it's actually a journal entry to move values from one line to another, which requires authorization. Municipalities don't do that. Municipalities set their budget and then pay the bills as they need to, because if you start shifting budgets around, then you want to do comparison year to year to year. What might have been a $50,000 budget got reduced to zero. And as you look back for the last 5 years, this thing that was 50 grand disappeared one year. And so you don't have an explanation. It is clearer if doing comparisons over years, your budget trend stays as it was designed and your actuals are what move.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't need to.
So that concept of moving a budget is if you are very formal about your entire budget process, and you don't even have balanced budgets. So let's not worry too much about moving budgets yet. It still can be in your policy, but by the nature of the way you operate, you'll just never ask city council to move budget amounts.
Yes, so I think this is kind of the stickier where I understood journal entry. So this is basically asking permission to make journal entries by the city council.
Except your entry is not an actual entry to financials, it's a budget adjustment. Take one budget down, put another budget up. And to do that and to track that, you go through a process called posting final budget. And then you start adjusting budgets, and your reports can be on original budget or adjusted budgets.
so basically at the end of the year, the idea is we'll have a list of, say we move $50,000 from the park fund into the water fund, or I hate to use that example because that's such a hot topic, but the firefighting budget or something of that nature. So we can more effectively budget the next year. Like, hey, you know what? we had a short, you know, we were able to make up there, but it caused XYZ problems. So we have to do that. I guess the one thing is when I looked at it, when these changes need to happen, and we're asking for city council approval to do these types of changes, does this accommodate enough time? You know, are we usually in a situation where it's like, I need to do this today, tomorrow? It's like mission critical, and we can't wait for the city council to approve it next Monday or something like that. What's like the, you know, what's the out, or what's the situation? I don't know if this is going to cover 95-98% of everything, or if it's, you know, a little different. That was just my only concern.
So typically, I often use spades and rakes. Every time DPW needed a new spade, they would buy it and they would charge it off to rakes because there was money in the rakes budget. And every year they would budget for more and more and more rakes when what they were buying was shovels. So the key piece in my mind is you're going to pay your bills, charge them where they should be paid, because that's what the expense is. And a subsequent event could be that the city council votes to move money from rakes to shovels, just so the budget to actual looks better. So the timing of it is always going to be after the fact, unless you are buying, for example, a police cruiser and it's coming in 6 months and you know you're going to take money from Peter to pay Paul to get the cruiser.
Okay,
That's
so we're not going to run
as
into,
often.
we're not going to run into any situations then where we're like short on cash or available funds to do something.
And
because
budgets try to associate the cash, but they're not.
Okay,
But I can tell you, you're never going to take recreation money and move it to water or sewer, because that would be a cross-fund budget. Can't do it.
So doesn't this fit with the thing that we've been talking about, where in the, I forgot the title of this new budgeting process that we're doing, but doesn't this help with the, let's put all the, you know, all the rakes and spades into one, in a bigger budget, and not worry so much about, you know, 10,000 for rakes and 10,000 for spades. They're all going to be, and then we can more easily split it out at the end of the year to see how many rakes and how many spades, right? Doesn't this, because I can't imagine us, as we've done in the past, having all these buckets and then having to, you know, shift things around when you don't have a lot of snow one winter, but you have a lot of dirt movement in the summer, you know, but we've budgeted 15,000 for snow and, you know, 10,000, and those things need to be switched. Doesn't that help the newer
Yeah.
budget?
The more simplified budget that, you know, we've agreed to, but we haven't invoked yet, that we're budgeting to next year. That is part of the intent, is labor is labor is labor. What the guys are doing, that's can be orally presented, that this is the tasks. These are the priorities that we are trying to hold ourselves to, that are all subject to change.
Could there be a financial amount where it would be necessary for the council to agree with the movement of the funds, let's say from recreation to the fire department, because it's a $50,000 item. Now it's, you know, it's not peanuts. It's not a couple of shovels or something, but it's a large sum. It would be nice to have council oversight on such a large sum being moved from one department to another.
Yeah, and that most of the time that's got to be a consideration, regardless of whether you adjust the budget. That some department will say, and DPW may say, look, I'm scheduled for 300,000 in paving. I'm only going to spend 150. So if you need 150 for something else, anywhere else, then you can overspend that other budget line item by 150,000 and still overall net your budget to a positive surplus without even moving budget numbers.
Great. All right. Thank you for your questions around timing and how that would impact operations, and looking forward with our new budget, Lori, and also some specific questions from the public. So I do really appreciate.
I did have Carter an opportunity to read through this last night. It looks good.
Okay.
I didn't see any.
Do folks feel that this version is ready for council on Monday?
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be at this point.
Great. All right.
Just had a question. Where did the template come from? Because I think that's something that gives everybody a lot of confidence in some of what we're doing, because we're not recreating the wheel. Where did the template come from?
This is one of VLCT's stock templates. And because at least I don't do too much digging into, because I think really you could spend, it could be my full-time job reading the other municipalities' financial policies and comparing and contrasting. But because they have that legal backbone, and because they are such the epicenter of all municipalities really, with supporting them around these sort of things, that's why I just was like, here's a template. And then again, it has, and sometimes I thought they were like interesting, like I hyperlinked that one because it has to do with addressing deficit for budget. So like, that's a good background reading. But this is, yeah, so it's Vermont League of Cities and Towns. So that's the gurus behind this one. But yeah, that's definitely a thing to preface with when I introduce it to the council on Monday. Okay. All right, for time, I'm gonna boogie oogie to the other one. I'm probably gonna give this to Carrie by the end of the day to include it in the packet. So if there's any comments, or you have an aha moment in an hour, let me, put it to the side or shoot me a thought, or just, yeah, no, actually change it, please. I was gonna say, change it, don't. But yeah, let me know. Okay. I think we're gonna start the conversation with the debt management. I don't have any, I think there's bigger topics that this touches on, and I want to make sure we have time to really assess and think this one through. This one, obviously, I had more comments on, and mostly they're positive, but at the end, there is really a fill in the blank around our debt ratios. So I think this is something we should think about. And I think having a conversation is important, but I'm less excited, or I'm less ambitious that this is going to reach the city council on Monday, and that's okay. So making sure real quick that everybody has access to this one, including both of Hal's, Hal Rodenberg.
Yeah, for some reason it wasn't going through my Yahoo, and it's going through my work computer. That's why I try and keep them separate, but I have not been good the past couple of weeks.
What's your other?
It's
What's
H.
your oth-
Rodenberg at Find Law.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. So you have both, just in case. Oh, it's really gonna think about it. Okay. Okay, so the footnotes of my footnotes over here is, in general, I think this is a really great policy. I think this speaks to the planning, how do I say this? Sometimes the lack of planning around our budget and our capital budget to identify like construction projects and things like this. So this is at least saying, hey, you need to assess and try to structure some long-term planning for larger things. I also think that some of this, I'm like, okay, we have been doing this, especially on our enterprise funds and trying to use the ratepayers to offset costs. Again, not totally what the city probably has been doing this whole time, but nonetheless, I think this is like a pat on the back, in my opinion. And I also think that I remember Hal a while back. This is so funny, Hal, because I definitely tagged you in this comment. I hope you and then you like tried to view it and you couldn't. Oh, anyways. But to conservatively project our revenue sources and also thinking about how things are going to be more expensive with inflation in the future. So we have some of these things I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good about. And then when it was a fill in the blank again, this is VLCT. So they're like, well, we don't know. And I think this is kind of more of the bigger conversation. I understand that our charter, and I put it over here somewhere, that I need some charter guru help because I know that the charter clearly states our borrowing limits. Could I easily find it? No. So that might be my own bad, but I did look through it. And I found a quote, but again, I'm not sure if it's a formula. I don't know if it's set in stone. And these are some things that if we need to define this as a city, is it necessary? Is our charter already kind of acting in this policy's place? And could we just, I don't think we want to get rid of this section, but maybe it just at least matches our current standards. So there we go. I just that's what I think. What do others think? Or any other comments or suggestions around this policy? Wait, I'll make it.
So on item line number 1, most of your new loan documents actually state number 1's condition. You're not taking on new debt that exceeds $10 million. It doesn't say anything about your existing debt, just new debt. The indebtedness per capita, I think your charter does speak to it. You would typed in $3.50 as if that was a tax rate equivalent. Well, your municipal tax rate doesn't exceed that now to begin with. So that city indebtedness per capita, let's bring in as much as we can of temporary visitors so we can count them.
I think that there are 2 sections in the charter that are relevant. Section 30, I think that refers to short-term loans, and the $3.50 limit is related to short-term loans. Section 34, if I'm not mistaken, is the section that deals with credit generally, not short-term loans. And that's dependent upon what the voters agree to. So every loan for any big ticket item that's going to go beyond a year has got to be currently agreed upon by the citizens in a vote. And so therefore, I think you have to, you can't just put out this with a debt ratio, because there is, with respect to long-term loans, no debt ratio. The citizens have to approve a long-term loan. With respect to short-term loans under Section 30, that $3.50 per dollar on the grand list is what governs. And I don't know how you integrate them, but you certainly need to integrate what we currently have in our charter, which is the law with respect to loans and the amount you can take, with whatever new policy you're going to put out, in my mind.
So should we word the policy that it shall follow the city charter? And then if we change the charter, we're not changing the policy.
That's a loaded comment.
I tend to agree with that approach. So change one versus changing all. The other part of it is, I honestly have not read the whole city charter. I'm sure it's a banger. to know this detail. So thank you, Pam, for calling that out. Because this last night when I couldn't get into this, that was one of the things I was looking at is how are other cities measuring their debt load and what are they using as the metrics? And they were kind of all over the place. I mean, I think the biggest concern in my book is that we don't want to get upside down. I mean, well, I should rephrase it, worse off than where we're at right now. And I'm not sure we know exactly what that is, how bad that really is in some ways, like, because that's why we're putting together projections and everything. So, yeah, this one's something to think about.
We also have an elephant in the room, and the elephant is there is a move within the city to monkey change completely the charter without citizen involvement and in a very short time. The charter is the city's constitution. There are major risks with doing that. There are unintended consequences. There's a lot at stake there. And to do it in a series of backroom deals, who knows who is writing what, is of concern to many of us. We should not be ignoring this.
Well,
So Pam, I'm gonna speak to that because
Good.
I've heard you characterize it as backroom deals and things that are happening in secret repeatedly. And I take
You know
pretty-
you haven't, Nick. I have
Pam,
said that a
Pam,
couple of
Pam.
times.
please, I just let you say what you wanted to say. Please do me the same courtesy.
Okay.
Thank you. So on Monday night, there will be an open discussion about what it would look like to try and take on the project of looking at a new charter. I've made no secret myself of the fact that I think this is something that is timely and important. And
Mhm.
John Manette and I have been doing significant work without incurring any significant expense in order to try and look at other cities and pull together something that might be workable. If the city council so chooses Monday night to move the process forward, we would take open comments the following week, and there would be full opportunity for the attorneys to review it in December, and then yet another opportunity for extended conversation and comment in January, long before the council ever has to make any move to try and approve something. So I just want to, there has been no effort to try and hide this. We just have been trying to do the background work so that when we have the conversation, we're talking about something that actually is intelligible. And right now, we don't have that thing. Right now, very few people, other than those of you in the community, and there are a few of you, who have really paid attention to the charter, most folks can't make heads or tails of it. So while I appreciate your concern that this should, in fact, I'll just, not while, I agree with your concern that this should be fully open and fully discussed by and with the public. And we are setting up for that conversation. You're right. Now, having said all of that, I don't believe we should be tinkering with this particular section on debt until we've actually had the conversation about the charter. And then that will determine whether or not, one, we have a charter that's intelligible and we can figure out how to manage, how to interpret it. And two, how a policy should interact with the charter. So I think we're doing the right thing by trying to look at this debt management policy and make sure that we are set up for that conversation. And I'm fully prepared for us to have it. I just want to get the charter on the table so we can have that conversation with and at the same time as this. And just to be clear, I'm not looking at making any changes in the stuff that Ann just referenced. Like I don't think that we should be looking to try and say we don't have to go get permission from the voters to do longer term debt than a year. Like I don't think we're actually recommending dramatic changes here.
well, I was going to say that I think part of the question is, do you just put into this document as per the charter, or do you lay out in the document, that anything longer than a year requires a vote of the public? There's, because I do agree, sometimes you put vague language, well, not vague, but you put language in that says, go reference that. And then if, not saying it's going to be, but if there is a change, then you've got to come back and be more specific. I think the idea is being specific in the document itself will move that forward. That's just my opinion.
And I am concerned about the charter aspect of this. I know that this is not the focus of this conversation, but I am appalled by the fact that you would not go through line by line our charter and decide what we don't want, what we want to change, what extra we need. Because if you don't do that and you go find some other new constitution somewhere, which I find totally shocking, then you put on the citizens the burden of finding each little part of the original charter that really needs to be put back in to the new constitution. And after a while, you guys are going to get tired of listening to that, and you're just going to vote for the new charter or the new constitution. And if you use the federal constitution as a guide for how we have been changing that constitution over a 200-year period, you know that we never said, let's get rid of this old thing they wrote in 1789 and come up with something new, spanking new and nice. We actually looked at what needed to be changed, and we wrote, they wrote an amendment, and therefore the original constitution still existed, the amendment existed. So I am appalled at the thought of just saying, here's the new document, we're going to vote on it. And you can say what you want about the old stuff that needs to be put back in, but we shouldn't have to put back in. We should modify what we had originally. That's the way constitutions should be changed.
Yeah, and I've heard your concern loud and clear. And you've been given every opportunity to share it, and you will certainly be able to share it once again for the council's consideration. I disagree, as you know, pretty strongly with your assessment about how this kind of change should be made, in part because the document itself is impenetrable for the average person. So what you're talking about actually is more confusing, in my judgment, far more confusing than trying to create a clean document, which, by the way, we can do nowadays in a way that was very difficult to do in the past by taking very recent documents from sister cities and using them as starter points and ensuring that we are actually making sure we don't do anything that changes the practices that we as a city are committed to. So I think you're right. This is not actually the place to have this conversation, but I'm not just going to let the comments go by without responding to them, because this is a public conversation and your voices are important, but they are not the only voices in the city.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I apologize because unfortunately I have to bounce to go to a meeting, and while I expect we're not writing a little red book or anything silly like that out of this, is the city charter available online?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
It's a little hard to find, but it's there. It's one of the things on Carrie's in my list is actually to try and figure out how to make it more intuitive. But right
Okay.
now you have to go to the zoning and permitting documents or something. If you can't find it, let me know and I'll help you track it down.
I was going to say, I have a saved copy. I can send you how.
You can
Okay.
also just hit Vermont State Statutes Newport, and it's in the Vermont State Statutes Appendix under Newport, and it'll give you the entire thing, beautifully written out.
I put the link in the chat, and that kind of junkates by chapter. So that's another way for you to bookmark and go back to whatever you would like, Hal.
Okay. Yeah, I've got it bookmarked. I just saw it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Yes, so got a bond bank meeting coming up. Kind of need to wrap up this meeting. Expect to meet next Wednesday as well. I think we'll have more updates and I think a more focused conversation on the budget prep, or at least the budget day preparation. So Yeah, okay. Kind of blunt ending, but
I just want to say, I definitely think that this task force should be involved in that. And I'm willing to do whatever we need to do to be part of it.
yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that day. I like, my excitement is genuine. So glad to hear that I won't be just the only person tap dancing up there. Um, all right. Well, thank you all again. Again, let me know the balanced budget policy. I'm going to send that off. I understand, put a pin in the debt because, again, bigger conversation, but I appreciate the work that you guys have done in the background, and also to the city staff changing things for real. So, all right, I'll see some of you guys in a minute for the Vermont Bond Bank. But other than that, I hope everybody has a good snowy rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.